especially thinking in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, which is one of those things that we need to equip our student with knowledge that is going to be very digital. So from us, from the MKU side, we have been already at that digital age. What we have done at the moment is to be able to invest more on that particular aspect. We have moved very quickly into the blended learning, online learning, and we are able to get our students to be able to embrace the online teaching when the COVID-19 came into effect. So at the moment, what we are looking at is a matter of how do we go forward. And going forward, it means that it has to be a blended learning. It has to be online and it has to be face-to-face. The students need that human interaction, but at the same time, safety is also important and the convenient for the student. In other words, the student should be able to learn from anywhere. They should be able to sit at their home and be able to log into lectures. And that is the kind of thinking that we are thinking. We must also remember that there are certain kind of degrees which cannot be 100% online. We offer medical. You have to be in the hospital. We offer certain kind of nursing. You have to be able to undertake those ones. So there are practical subjects where face-to-face cannot be replaced with online.
All right, thank you very much. I want to come to Professor Kinyua on the same. JKUAT, you know, right from the onset had already set itself aside to be big on technology. What have you seen different this time as now students have resumed? Are you seeing now more people wanting to come and take courses? Are you seeing greater, you know, just based on the pandemic?
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in this panel. Yes, it is true, JKUAT has been having a school of distance and e-learning for many years, more than 15 years. But we've seen that there has been very little growth over those years. We cannot compare it to what has happened in the last 6 months or so. The demand for online learning has triggered our minds to think beyond what has been happening previously. So as of now, students can register online. They can do almost everything online. But as my colleague has mentioned, there are some courses which are requiring that interaction, face-to-face interaction. However, even those courses which require this interaction have certain elements which can be done online and which we are doing online. So there are courses which we believe will continue to be offered online even in the future, even without even if we got a vaccine. We are seeing a situation where this online interaction will continue. But it has come, because as you mentioned, it is disruptive. It has come with a lot of challenges. Lecturers who are not used to this kind of teaching, students who are not ready to learn online, because maybe they didn't have gadgets to use, because they didn't have perhaps bundles. But this has somehow been solved gradually. We've been receiving a lot of support from our partners. And Safaricom gave us some discounted bundles, which our students were able to use. And even now, I think the offer is still on. So we are progressing very well. And I believe this is the way of the future. We're not going to leave this online learning. Obviously, it is blended because there are some items which we have to do visually. But even the face-to-face learning, like experiments, are now becoming digital. Recently, we were discussing with a startup company which is developing an electronic nose, because they want someone to be able to smell chlorine, even when you're not in the lab. You should be able to smell hydrogen sulfide. So there are many innovations coming up because of this. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's very interesting, electronic nose. I wonder how many of us would not mind one. Because electronic nose ukipata homa, unazima tu stima. So I want to bring in, before we get to Fozi, I want to bring in the student because the administrators of schools have spoken. And Jama, what's your experience been right now? You know, one, you're a tech student and you've gone back to school, what has changed? They've mentioned a bit about blended classes. Are your classes currently fully online, or are they some online, some offline? What is the situation like for you?
So for me, we find that most of the students have fully virtual classes. That means there's no blending, there's no on-site classes or anything else. It's just fully virtual classes, whereby you find that lecturers have a virtual setting in terms of also the application courses, which we find that we have a lab or something. You have to have a virtual setting in order for us to understand and apply them in the virtual world. As much as we're talking about blending application and also theoretical versions of classes, we will find that most of the units, as much as we will get the blended classes, it will not be more applicable at this time, at this pandemic time. With blending in terms of the spacing in the class, in terms of also the resources and equipment, they're not that well availed for us right now. So I think virtually setted classes right now are the best for us, and we have adapted to it in terms of understanding and also conceptualizing of the concept that we've been given.
But is it really that easy to have an online class? Because if I am at home, you've seen people, you'll see me dressed in a suit up here, but I'm in shorts, slippers, I'm barefoot, but I'm at home. In terms of the discipline and the attention that you'd pay, because some people switch off camera, go and wash the bathroom, then come when the class is over and say, thank you very much. Is it that easy for you?
I would say it is not that easy, to be honest. As you say, we can be in the comfort of our bed while in class. So it's not that easy to have a concentration span when you're in bed. That everyone knows, right? So we have to find a way of adapting ourselves, because we are learning for our own sake. It's not for our lecturers, it's not for the vice chancellors or anyone else. It is for our own futures and our own development. So if someone doesn't see it that way, then I do not think they will be able to understand the concept of virtually learning, because I find it convenient. I do not have to wake up 6 a.m. in the morning, start preparing myself, asking for maybe fare, or looking for some other way to get my fare so that to go to school, and look for ways to get my lunch and all that. Everything is easier for me right now with the virtual classes. I do not think it's that hard for anyone to understand that, I guess.
All right. And as we speak of, things being more virtual, more digital, Safaricom is making their money, Fauzia, first of all, you see, it's a privilege for him to speak that way, to say that, he has that option of he can be in school and, he's got access to internet. We're just saying how from where he sits, for instance, he probably has the Ethernet cable. If it's not working, he has Wi-Fi. If it's not working, he'll hotspot someone else. From where he sits, he's got many options. But we have people who are in probably the far-flung areas, and they are still not yet there with accessing internet. And I know a lot of this is a government aspect of, how do they give them access? But what is Safaricom doing itself, or have you done, to see how you can also pull in those who may be in the far-flung areas to ensure that the disparity is not as large?
Okay, morning everyone. Thank you for the question. I think the pandemic, one of the things that the pandemic showed us was that the government had made a lot of strides in making sure that kids were able to get to school, and transition between primary and secondary was also 100%. And at least people were able to access education. But when COVID happened, I think what the realization we got is that there was a very big gap in accessing education for children who had access to the internet and children who didn't have access to the internet. The gap was wider. I think from an assessment we had done, I think only 20% of the children at the beginning of the pandemic were able to access education, content of whatever nature. And the challenges were there. The challenge was either access to a device, the challenge was access to a chip bundle, the challenge was access to an area that has network, access to the content, access to a teacher. What if I'm stuck? I'm reading by myself. So what is Safaricom doing, especially for those who are in the far-flung areas? One of the things we do, I think from our results, you'll see that we spend about 35 billion every year in terms of rolling out network. If we look at the Nairobi and the main cities, we can say the penetration is almost 100% covered. But in those areas, what we try to do now is to focus on penetration inside the buildings and providing the quality. But in rural areas, we continue to focus in terms of rolling out our sites in those areas. But of course, partnering very closely with the government on an annual basis. There's a fund that we pay to. It's called the Universal Service Fund, where all the telcos contribute 0.5% into that fund. And maybe just to mention some of the things Safaricom did in the COVID era, we worked with partners because we saw the challenges that I have mentioned. So we looked for partners, number one being the government itself, KICD, to give us content, and other partners who had content. And we delivered this content to our customers for free. So if you had a 2G phone, we were able to deliver that content to you via SMS, and we were able to reach many customers. If you have a 3G phone, we had partners who were able to give us that content. As a result, I think we reached over 5 million children across the country, both using SMS and digital opportunities. So I think I think we can't do it alone. That's one thing we've learned. One, yes, we need to take the network there, but secondly, we need to partner with those who have the content and also facilitate parents to be able to get the devices.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to come back to the good professors. And let me begin with you, Professor Kinyua. Are we looking at a significant revision of the syllabi? Because with things having changed, are we seeing some of your courses, you're having to rethink what the syllabus contains and the likes? Or are we still going to soldier on with what we have?
Thank you very much. Actually, we are in that realm of looking at our syllabuses and our curriculum very keenly to make sure that it actually can be taught digitally, and whatever cannot be taught digitally, we know how to teach it. So we are working with people who are in industry so that we know their needs and how we can address those needs. One of the things we have really excelled in, I believe, in JKUAT is academies. Many companies have digital academies in JKUAT, digital academies from Huawei, Cisco, all those. They have the academies. And these academies give our students very specialized skills. And some of these skills, we would want to integrate them into our curriculum so that as we teach, we know we are teaching relevant materials to our staff. Our lecturers have to shape up in a way, let me say that, because our students are now very demanding. They are able to see what other lecturers out there are teaching. They can follow a lecturer in India, in the US, and if your lecture is not good enough, you realize the attendance will fall. So we are seeing a situation where lecturers also are being challenged to deliver what is required. Thank you.
All right, and I want to just bring Prof as well. Now, we are seeing that a lot more people are now getting to online learning, and we've said it is pretty much getting embossed into our future as we go along. Are we potentially going to see universities reducing the fees that they charge? Because then I'm not going to be paying for the upkeep of all your buildings. I'm actually going to be spending on paying Fauzia for internet. So are we going to foreseeing anything of that sort where the students would pay less?
Thank you for that. I think that's a big debate internationally. It's not only in Kenya. You have seen that students in the US, students in Europe have actually raised that issue. And the issue the SMB is saying is that I have been paying fees and I've been using the university facilities, but now I'm sitting at home and I'm using my own facilities. Will my fees structure be revised? And I tend to think that's the debate we need to really have as universities, because at the end of the day, you must also remember this, that we are revamping our electronic transmission of lectures. That is an investment, and we are investing it for our student. So the issue of reducing the fees is something which must be discussed down the line once that investment is all in place. Because as I indicated, that COVID accelerated the process. So at the moment, we are investing. I'll give you an example. Because of social distancing, if I'm now going to go forward and I have to teach a subject where I have face-to-face, because remember that during COVID, high peak, we went 100% virtual. But as we are moving forward, we are thinking of going blending. And according to the students themselves, some of them want to have that campus experience. It cannot just be 100% virtual, and because of the certain causes. And that means that as an institution, the classrooms, which where we used to put in 100 people, will now only be able to accommodate maybe 50 or 45. So the space is still needed. But at the end of the day, I need to be able to deliver the lecture to 100 people. And if they all choose to come face to face, then I need to be able to do the transmission into the 3 different classes from one point. Those are all investments that universities are doing. So it is a debate that we really need to engage with, but it's something which I think university must be open to discuss with the students very honestly and openly.
Prof, you also want to add to that?
Maybe I can add to that.
Before I come to the student, tell us whether he wants to pay less fees.
Yes, at the beginning of September, we realized that we really had to convince our students to join online classes, because many of them complained that they didn't have money for bundles, they didn't have money for gadgets. And so as a Senate, University Senate, we sat with the student leaders to discuss on how to make life more bearable to those students who had issues. And we agreed. We came to an agreement and we gave them a waiver of 10% of the fees, the tuition fee. So they were happy, and I believe this made the registration for the online classes come up. Actually, by the time they were coming for the face-to-face classes in November, we were having about 80 to 85% attendance in the virtual classes. So we believe this really helped, because we were able to tell them, this is the money we are kind of giving you to buy the bundles, and please participate in the classroom.
All right. Do you feel that you should be paying less fees?
Personally, yes, because as you said, we are learning at the comfort of our bed. Most of the facilities and resources that we've been using during the on-campus sites are not being used, from the Wi-Fi to maybe the computers, electricity and all that, water and all that. They're not being used. So as Professor said, they need to be open in terms of transparency between the students and the faculty. So if they're able to tell us this is how the breakdown of our fee structure is, we're able to understand and try to adapt to that such a kind of situation. But most of the time we find, I'm talking in terms of Strathmore, they did the same thing, but generally I'm talking about all the students there. Most of the universities do not do that. They don't tell you this is what we've been doing and this is how we're going to be solving the problems that we have. So as much as we need to be reducing the fees, we also need to get efficient use of that fees in terms of the resources that are going to give us. There's no computer that you're going to have in school, right? That means what exactly are you going to do? Are you going to give me a laptop at home? Or, because as you said, there are people who are in remote places. I might talk from a Strathmore point of student, but there's someone who is in a remote place trying to access classes that are hard for him, you know. So it's the initiative of the school to understand the position of the student and try to find a way to solve, because we are equally, and also in terms of the students, we are also same. So if you're going to give me internet and try to solve my problems, you might as well solve the problem in someone who is in a remote place.
All right, the disparity conversation comes up again. And Fauzia, there's been a conversation over the years about our education system where we have a disconnect between what is being taught in school and what is expected of in the market. And for you who is in the corporate space, and after this gentleman churn out the likes of JAMA, they come to you and you still have to retrain. What needs to be done to ensure that, do you feel like we're talking about the syllabi being changed? I know there's the aspect of the CBC in the lower levels, but currently, because this is our current reality, the likes of JAMA who are going to be finishing and possibly come to Safaricom, what needs to be done to ensure that he doesn't have to be retrained so rigorously like he's doing a higher diploma, for instance?
Absolutely. I think that's a good question. I think the challenge before has been, corporates, most of us would sit and say what we are getting is not good enough. And I think the institutions of learning are doing their best to provide the learning to the students. But one of the things that I've seen to work very well, especially in Safaricom, to bridge that divide is to collaborate with the institutions of learning and to actually, have a conversation that says, this is where we see our organization going in the 5 years, in the next 5 years. These are the skills that we will need. Is it possible for you to include these skills in the curricula so that when those students actually come to our organization, then they're able to adapt and actually do well. Joining an organization is one thing. You've just put your foot in, but you have to perform, you have to deliver. So if you don't deliver, in the corporate world, there's no one to, we do a performance review and you're out. So how do we make sure that they're able to succeed? Because, that's what we want. So what we've done with a lot of the campuses, I think it's alluded to it, we work together and build what we're calling digital academies. So currently, in the beginning, it was more around the technical skills, around building the network. But 20 years down the line, I think that is maturing and continuing to improve. What we're seeing now, it's about building apps, improving customer experience, enhancing processes. So now it's in the era of user interface, data analytics, design, development, So in those soft skills now we're seeing that becoming important. Cybersecurity. So together with Strathmore, we have what we're calling a digital academy. We sponsor students for a period of up to between 6 and 9 months to actually sharpen those skills. And then, we can find a way to actually adopt them. Now, within Safaricom, because, like you're saying, the current reality, we didn't learn that in school. We are actually getting employees and taking them to those digital academies for 9 months. So it's an investment the company is doing. But of course, to make it more sustainable, working together with the institutions of learning to build the curriculum.
Okay. Oh, you wanted to add something?
So personally, I can say that all the students have that perspective, optimism, that when you come out from the university, you have to have a pathway into the employment industry. And most of the units or the syllabi itself, you find that if it is not based on the industry, we'll find so much problems coming out from the university because we'll be not competent or don't even have enough skills to do so. So I can applaud Strathmore for always looking out of the industry first before giving us the syllabi. So we find ourselves, as much as I'm an IT student, I have a unit that I'm studying for ethical values. I have a unit studying for project management. I might be an IT specialist, but in the real world, I have the skills and also the competence to come out as an industrial modeled student. So when you're looking at the syllabi, because I was in JKUAT first year, and apparently I found myself studying things that I had in high school, like physics and all that, which didn't help me, frankly speaking. But when I came to Strathmore, there was nothing like that. I came into the industry, into the school with the perspective that I need to be in the industry as much as I'm in school. So I can be able to work right now and also be in school. And that is what I've been doing. With the COVID-19 pandemic, I've been able to make apps, as Fauzi was saying. We've been able to make apps and sell them to the industry. We have a Strathmore incubator, whereby you come up with a business perspective, business proposition, and go there and give out your proposition and be vetted as a citizen, as an industrial, as a worker, not as a student. And that is what they've been putting into us, instilling in us, I guess.
All right, so that's a very hands-on kind of practical approach. And Fauzi, you mentioned something about cybersecurity. And now we're getting more digital, and it's also a very risky space to be in. Because every time I'm now logging into, I want to get into a meeting, whichever platform, most of them will ask for my email address. I will key in my password. Some want my phone number. There's a lot of personal information that ordinarily would not be anywhere else other than in my safe space, but now it's out there. Then we have hackers. We have, they can say, Big Brother is always watching. So what's the balance? What's the balance in regards to we are pushing the digital agenda, but are we doing a commensurate way of actually informing and advising people on how to shield themselves?
I think, yeah, probably we're playing catch up, if I can say that. Because most of us, I think, when we log on to or download an app, when we go to that place of terms and conditions, I don't know how many of us who actually take time to read. First, it's like 30 pages. It's in a language we don't understand. So you're just like, even if I try to read and I need this application, I'll just accept and proceed.
It's actually one of the greatest steps of faith, that point.
Exactly. So I think there are a couple of things that are happening. I think the government is taking steps from a legal perspective to try and see how can it protect its citizens from a data protection perspective. There is a lot from, can I say, communication authority that telcos are supposed to do to ensure that we protect the data of customers. So we are required to actually protect the data of customers. But I think also as individuals, we need to also take a bit more responsibility in terms of how we do our things. Let me give an example. So for example, we all love free Wi-Fi, right? I mean, everybody loves, you get into any place that has free Wi-Fi, the first thing you want to do is update all your apps. I think the key thing to always note is that not all the free Wi-Fi is safe. Your data could actually be captured in those free Wi-Fi areas. So it's about saying, what activity am I going to do when I'm in a free Wi-Fi area? So we have to take time to educate. I think there's that element. We have to know what is safe, what is not safe. You should never do a banking transaction on a free Wi-Fi, network. It might be safe, but it might not be. So how can you make sure that you're actually doing a banking transaction if you want to do it online in a safe environment? So those are some of the things that we also have to sort of like take care of. So the issue of cybersecurity is a big one. The issue of hacking is a big one. So within Safaricom, what we do is, of course, we have a cybersecurity department. For all our applications, we make sure that we actually work with what we call international hackers to try and break them. There's what we call ethical hackers who work to ensure that they test your systems, and if they can be able to hack, you actually pay them, because what they do is that they tell you this is the weakness in your system, and then you improve it. So we are investing a lot in that particular area to ensure the security of our customers. Yeah.
Okay, I'll come to Professor Kinyua, and something that we had spoken with Fauzi about when it comes to the people who are coming from the institutions are not coming fully equipped. They've got the degree or the certificate, diploma, name it, but when they come to the workplace, they are not where they should be. How do we, because part of it is also a thing about just our education system, where we cram, we read for the exams, not for life. We read for the exams. What are you doing to change that? And some of it has been alluded to in terms of the academies, but what are you doing to ensure that these guys, that we've got a number of young people here, will actually not just, become like a rotating wheel?
Thank you very much. Actually, the government has come up with a very good solution to that in the form of a CBC. But as a university, we are looking at our curriculum also to ensure that it has a big component of skills in the curriculum. When we are doing curriculum, new curriculum or revising curricula, we always consult stakeholders. This means we have to call people who are likely to use our output. These are the students who graduate with this degree. And as part of our policy, before the curriculum goes through, it has to go through stakeholder involvement. And these stakeholders help us a lot to see what is actually required in that kind of industry. But maybe a word of caution is that we don't just train for the industry here, because most of the stakeholders we'll get will be people who are, for example, local entities. But we have some of our students who are aiming even higher. They may not want to be just working, maybe they want to be researchers. And for this reason, we'll also involve and check what our counterparts out there are doing. So when you come, you'll see our curricula. Some of our curricula are teaching things which appear abstract. No company will employ you just because you have done, for example, mathematical spaces. It is not something which you easily understand. But there are people out there who are doing research in those areas, and they want to get people who understand some concepts. So to be able to capture such people in our first year of study, we have a very broad curriculum. I think this is what he found in JKUAT. Our curriculum at the first year level is very broad, because we know some of the people who come did not have a good background in mathematics or physics, those very basic courses. So when you come, you go through those courses, because we want to prepare you for whatever you want, not just working in an industry. Whatever you want to do, you don't need to fear anything. If someone mentions something to do with Newton's laws or something like that, you need to be very, very familiar with those things, as long as they are in your area. If you are an engineer, we expect you to understand a lot of physics, especially if you want to do research. So our curricula is based on those two platforms. There is the industry bit, but there is also the science bit, where someone just wants to discover knowledge for purposes of enhancing knowledge. Thank you.
All right, yes, Fozia.
Maybe if I can add, maybe speaking to the student, sometimes when I don't know, maybe when you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, fine, then I'm in campus, I'll never get a job. Or how is it that I'm going to be able to match to your requirements? I don't even know them, I think the way you should always look at it, organizations are looking for people to help them solve problems, or find solutions, or improve experience, or become help people who are adaptable. So I think my advice to you would be, number one, try and get a mentor, someone who is already in the working industry, so that they can tell you the things they look for. Please don't look too far. Your teacher is a mentor. Your parent is a mentor. Anyone who has worked in an organization has something they can share. Please get a mentor. Number two, if you can be able to volunteer your time to work in whichever organization, even if it's a bookshop, even if it's an NGO, you will learn the culture of being in a working environment, so that you'll be able to see, how can I make this better? If a customer is coming here every day, how can I make it better? Is my role to increase sales, to increase experience, from that perspective? And then finally, try and look at what are the skills of the future. What are the skills of the future? So that even if probably where you are, you've already finished campus, there's nothing you can do, then you can try to figure out those. There are very many free courses, being offered online at the moment. We go to college so that we can get the ability to learn, to get the learning culture. So if you can adopt those things, to be very honest, you will make it in the workspace. The only thing I'll tell you is you have to be adaptable. Things change so fast in the work organization. Sometimes you can only learn it by being practical. So I think that's my advice to you as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Prof, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe I can just add and simply say that if we train you for a job of today, you'll be jobless in 10 years. So the adaptability and being a long life learner is the key. The curriculum we give you in first year may not be leading you to a job market. And you must understand this, and you are students. Some of you come with a clear mind. I want to do medicine. And the day they are taken to see a cadaver, they faint. And they realize while my father and my mother wanted me to be a doctor, I don't think I'm cut for this. And then you change your degree. So the best way to do is to make sure that you are equipping yourself with the skills. And the most important skill, apart from the academia, are the soft skills. And the companies are looking for those soft skills. It's going to be adaptable. You may come to me as a company, and I want to test you, and I'll tell you, can you go into the kitchen and make a cup of tea? And you simply say, I got a degree. Why the hell should I go making a cup of tea? And that just shows me that this is not a person I want in my company. It's not an adaptable kind of person. You see? So, and we must understand that with the coming of the fourth industrial revolution, the digital world, there is no university that will teach you everything in 4 years. You must be prepared that you'll go into the workplace and you'll come back to university to be able to refresh your courses based on our changing curriculum. What the university are doing is making sure that our curriculum is keeping pace with what is changing. And that's what the industry wants. The industry wants you to have, they're looking for somebody with artificial intelligence. We are looking for somebody with Bitcoin. We are looking for somebody with data science. And these are the skills of the future. So it's an issue of how do you adapt yourself to the changing world. And as a student, you must have that open mind.
Thank you. And I just want to stay with you for a bit because you've mentioned about, being adaptable to the changing world. And the world is really changing, and we are moving more away from the brick and mortar kind of job, labor, and moving more into the technology-driven. We are seeing even huge companies, factories, which are some of the most labor-intensive, are installing and commissioning facilities, machinery that is going to do so much that X number of people are declared redundant. Do you feel that we are training our people at a commensurate rate to now take up the digital-based jobs? Because we have got a large mass of people who, are in the blue-collar jobs. But are we training people at a rate so that we don't have an even greater burden of unemployment because what they are trained for, what they know, is now irrelevant?
Not really. Because remember that we're instilling the skills and lifelong learning. The companies are looking at a point where they are simply saying that this activity is so routine that it is boring. Packaging things into a box, I may as well bring in artificial intelligence, bring in a robot to do that. But that does not mean that I'm replacing that particular individual who was most likely maybe doing the packaging, need to reskill, retool, so that they can do something different. Remember that as we go into the digital world, certain jobs are becoming redundant, but new jobs are opening up. So that is what we need to think through. And that means that we need to be able to have our students learning and reskilling all the time. It's not like the time when maybe me and the professor went to the university. That's a different ball game now. The game now is, how do I keep pace with the changing world? How do I make sure that I'm on the next job line, because what I'm doing may become redundant or may be a job for the robot?
Prof, the other prof, just the same question. Do you feel we are trained people enough to take up the new jobs, especially the ones who are losing jobs because what they are skilled in or what they are trained in or have known to do is being rendered redundant?
Well, I think we are doing quite well in terms of training, university level training. But I think we have a disconnect at the technical level, because there are people with a lot of academic knowledge. Universities are graduating so many people. If you look at the graduation ceremonies we've had, there are so many people with degrees in IT, telecommunication, and all that. But if you look at the diploma level, the technical area where they normally just deal with the technical aspects and not going too much into the theory, I think we have a certain limitation in that area. And the current improvement in the teacher sector, I believe, will be a good thing to this country, because then we will be having a proper triangle. Because currently, our triangle is almost inverted, where people with high qualifications and degrees are up here, very many of them, and very few with the technical knowledge. So I believe we are on course because of the new approach in technical training.
All right. Jama, you've been studying in your third year of BSc Telecommunication, and you also mentioned that you've also been making apps and the likes. So from what you've experienced, it is definitely not as much as the good professors there or as Fauzia. What do you think needs to be done to make our digital space more lucrative, more vibrant, just based on what you've seen as a person who's engaged a lot with technology?
So what I can say is, as a student, I usually look at the perspective of, you don't have to teach me how, you don't have to take me to the river and get the fish for me. You rather teach me how to fish, and then I'll be able to survive a lifelong life with my skills and everything else. So when I look at my digital technology aspirations, we find that most of the emerging trends are not being welcomed in terms of having automizing and automated systems that are already there. So we find that the lucrativeness in a system is usually the digitalization of it. So if we're able to digitalize most of the things, they're going to make our work easier. And I always usually tell my colleagues that when you look for a smart way of doing things, you don't have to work hard for it. It's always being about the easy way out of it. The easy way out, but still you have to look at it in terms of, is it efficient enough? Is it effective enough? So most of the trendings that are already in place are not welcomed, and people are still going back to the manual-based, and also they're still reluctant in terms of the digitalization of most of the things. I might give you a phone right now, and you'll see it as a gift, or you'll see it as a present from me. But if I give the same phone to someone who is in a remote place, who's always used to Akabambe, they always find it so reluctant to use it, because they find, I don't know anything. So the literacy part of it is not there. And the institutions need to focus on more of the literacy in terms of the digital world, because we are going into a digital world in every aspect of our life, from business to the society. So if I give an ATM to a person who has never used an ATM, they will not know how to use it at all. So the computer literacy is one of the effective way of digitalizing most of the things. Because if I know how to use it, then I'll be able to know how to move around in the society and also in the business aspects.
All right. That's a brilliant response. And I'll bring the same to you, Fauzia. What do you think needs to be done to make sure that our digital space, as it's growing, is also lucrative? Because the government has said, like, through the Ajira program, jobs have been created, online jobs, and we've seen a lot of that. Yourselves at Safaricom, you've got a lot of that. What needs to make sure that it's a sustainable and lucrative space to operate in?
Well, I think for me, I always say, as long as you're solving a consumer problem, you will make money and you will meet a need. I can give a very simple example. I mean, most of you here are very young, but the ones who are a little older, when we used to send money, to either our parents or people up country, it was an uphill task. You used to take it to the bus. Me, I know I used to use a Kamba. put it in an envelope or in a book, cover it like a gift, and you pray until that person receives it, which could be a week. By the time they tell you, then you can relax. You know, it's such a long time. But that was a particular problem that M-Pesa came to solve. And now sending money is a very easy thing. In fact, we don't even think about it. So it came to solve a problem, and hence it was adapted very easily. So I think if we focus on where is it that customers are struggling, and then find digital solutions to it, I think we will find that adoption, the adoption will be much, much easier. I'll give another example. The need for entertainment is a big thing now, whether we want to agree or not. So the people who are watching YouTube, people who are, you know, watching content online is increasing. So content creators are also growing. And I can tell you, very young people are known in remote areas, are creating content for YouTube and making money. So I think it's about, if we come from the perspective of what problem are we trying to solve, or what is the solution that we are bringing for a problem that people have come to accept as the norm, then I think that way we'll be able to actually figure that out. But of course, to make it work, we need to make devices much more cheaper so that people are able to access them. Currently, the smartphone penetration is still very low. I think we're still below 50% in Kenya. We still need to make bundles much cheaper. Year on year, our bundle pricing reduces by nearly 20%, but it's still not enough. How can we even make it much, cheaper? Because these are the basics to actually be able to access whatever digital content is out there. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we've got about 10 minutes to go, and I'm just going to allow, if there's anyone with a quick question, that you'll raise your hand. I'll come with a microphone. We'll have a microphone come to you. Then you ask a brief question. We will not have as much time to address all of them, but we'd like to address just a few of the questions. I'll come to you. If you could just raise your hand if you have one, or you could just come closer, and then kindly put on your mask, because I don't have mine. If you could just kindly just come, tell us your name, probably the institution you're representing, and then you could then ask your question. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Currently, I'm not a student, but I've been in a college and a university. I wanted to ask Fawzia something. Safaricom celebrated 20 years in existence in Kenya, right? But you realize that you have not covered the remote areas. How much more time do you need to cover every part of Kenya so that even students in rural areas could access learning on a digital platform? Then number two, we have seen older people joining primary schools, and they cannot be able to use the modern phones. They still rely on those, the ones that you press. So how are you planning to cover that gap? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else with a question, so that we just bundle them all together? You could just come. We need a lady also. Just come. The two of you, just come as well. Then we just ask our questions quickly, then we'll respond to them, and we could bring this session to a close. It seems the ladies have no questions. Right, I'll hold it for you. Just introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Noor Mohammed, the Dean of Students, Garissa University. My question goes to the professors. It has been emphasized a lot, the issue of lifelong learning. And I don't know how, what are we doing to address this, particularly the people who are at retiring age. It looks that the retirees are just redundant and wastage compared to America and other places where we make use of them. We are only focusing on the young tax. It's good. But what about the people who are at the verge of leaving jobs? What are we doing as alternative in the lifelong learning? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Willie Jasin, and I'm the president of TUM Innovations, Technical University of Mombasa. So at TUM Innovations, we do help students come up with ideas and also take the ideas from prototype to actually commercialization, that is a business. Part-time, I do work with Tech Kids Africa, where we make educational robots for kids under 20 years old to learn robotics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So my question to educators, sorry, to head of schools, is I do appreciate that right now they are trying to make education more adaptive, so that if you graduate today and you'll be able to adapt to future jobs, maybe 10 years or 20. So what are we planning to do for those who graduated 205 and below on technical institutions? Because currently they are jobless. Those who are jobless and graduated around 200,000. Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the questions. So I'll begin with Fozia, the question that was brought to you first by the first gentleman who asked.
Okay, thank you for your question. I think I'll start with the first one. So the question was, what are we doing to ensure that people in remote areas are able to get access to basically the network, so that they are able to access the services? So what, I had actually answered the question before, but what I said is that on an annual basis, we spend about 35 billion in CapEx. And what that entails is about rolling out network and making sure that it has both, you can be able to call and use the internet. But of course, we might not be able to cover everywhere, because what we do is we try to identify where there's a reasonable size of population. So what the government has done, they have asked all the telcos to contribute every year 0.5% of their revenue. It goes into what is called the Universal Service Fund. So like last year, I think Safaricom probably paid in excess of 1 billion shillings to that fund. So now what the government would do, working with the locals, would identify what are the places that have not been covered, and then it would say, you know, for example, Safaricom, we're giving you back that money, put up this site here, or Telcom, put up this site here, or Airtel, put up this site here. So it's a collaborative approach. But what I can say is that in terms of population coverage, quite a bit of the population has been covered, but there are still quite a few pockets. And when you travel across the country and you move away from the highway is when you realize exactly what you have said. So it's a collaborative effort, that between ourselves and the government. Now the second question was, what are we doing in terms of ensuring people are able to access devices so that they stop using the old devices, because from an experience perspective, it's very difficult. So devices is two things. The first thing is just having a place where they can access them. And then secondly, it's making sure the price is reasonable. So in Safaricom, we actually sell devices through our dealer network and through our M-Pesa agent network. So we are hoping that where there's a small town, you'll be able to find one of these outlets that you can get a device. But affordability is an issue. You can imagine 5,000 shillings, it might seem reasonable, but for most Kenyans, it's out of reach. So this year we introduced a campaign called Lipa Mdogo Mdogo, where we identify those who have 2G devices and would need to graduate straight to a 4G device. So for that amount of money, they pay a deposit of 1,000 shillings, then every day they pay 20 bob. Now what we have noticed is that the demand for that device is so big, not only for the ones with 2G phones, but maybe someone like you might want to buy for your brother or your sister. So now we are considering opening it up so that anyone can be able to buy, because as long as you've bought the device, we know someone who needs it will use it. So it's about looking for cheaper funding for devices as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come to the professors.
Yes. Somebody asked about lifelong learning. At the university, we not only give the usual bachelor's degrees, diplomas, and such. We also have courses which are developed on need basis. And anyone is free to join them. For example, someone will want to come and study how to grow bananas, how to grow mushrooms, how to do something for yourself. And we have no prerequisites. We don't tell you must have passed at KCSE level. Those courses are open to people who want to learn. And we actually attract a lot of people who are just in the villages and they want to learn a certain skill. They want to know how to keep their pigs healthy. So we have this kind of opportunity. But on people who have retired from government and maybe they want to continue serving, I know you mentioned people from out there, maybe in the developed countries, who come to work here after retiring, or maybe they work in some companies after retiring. We find it a bit of a challenge just because after retirement, of course there are laws which tell you should not work beyond a certain limit in Kenya. And if you have to work beyond that limit, perhaps you have to be a volunteer. Maybe you volunteer your time. Okay. It is hoped that maybe by the time you are retiring, you have solved most of your financial obligations, and you are just coming to help other people. So this is an issue I find when someone wants to continue working, they still want to be paid at the same rate the other people are being paid. But just one about our experience at JKUAT, we have a system where a professor can retire but still come in as an emeritus professor. So emeritus means you are just you are a retired professor. You can come and teach, but maybe we don't pay you as much as we were paying you when you were on the normal payroll. And you can interact with the students and pass on any wisdom you have at that level. But we don't pay a normal salary to that post.
Okay, I want to come to Professor Jaganyi very briefly, just to respond to the final question where the gentleman asked, what happens to those who had studied possibly technical courses and they finished, 15, 16 and above years ago, and now they find themselves out of the job? Maybe you could just briefly respond to that as we come to a close.
Look, I think what you need to do is to be able to either come in for short courses in terms of the current job market needs, to be able to refresh your courses. Otherwise, we have what we can call articulation. If you are doing a diploma, you can be able to now upgrade to a degree, which is actually market driven. So if you are finding yourself in that situation, the best thing to do is to either, as my colleague has indicated, lifelong learning is a matter of the short courses that are actually currently being driven by the market. And if you take those ones, you retool yourself to be able to get back into the job market. If that is not an option, then you can be able to articulate into a degree from a TVET to a degree program and then get into the job market.
Thank you very much, Professor, and the rest of my panelists. We've had some very insightful conversations here. We've been speaking with Professor Robert Kinyua, who's the Deputy Vice Chancellor at JKUAT, that is for Academic Affairs. Then we have Professor Deogratius Jaganyi, who's the VC of Mount Kenya University, Vice Chancellor if you like. And then we have Fauzia Ali, who's the Head of Digital Products and Services at Safaricom. And we have Jama Abdi Fatah, who's a Bachelor of Science telecommunication student at Strathmore University. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing us to tap into your insight and into your knowledge. And I believe that it's been a very insightful session. We're having a lot more of this. Just to remind you that the NMG Higher Education and Career Fair continues. It's happening today and tomorrow at Sarit Center, second floor. Just make your way here. It's free entry. If you want to understand what options you have in regards to the future, your career choices, where you'd like to study. We've got some booths here which have got the different institutions have set up just to give you that kind of information, some of them represented here. And so just to remind you, it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. today, Friday, and tomorrow, that is Saturday. Be sure to be here. We'll have another panel session in the afternoon. We'll be talking about the jobs of the future, the careers of the future, with a different panel, and this one shall be streaming on our online platforms as NTV. So thank you for joining us on this broadcast. We'll be having more conversations on this on location, but for now, for those who are watching us on TV, we say goodbye.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses all around the bathroom. Blue for the toilet and red for the bathroom.
Mzungu alikuja hapo kitambo akapata watu wanachimba gold. Is this a gold mine? Then Muluya akasikia akasema, hii ni Kolomani.
Fun and food got together beautifully at GMC Place. Enjoy our succulent meals in a serene setting with a varied choice of fun games for the little ones. Cup it up with a cuppa or a cocktail, all available to your taste. Make your reservation today on 0701 560 560.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
On success, nafunga hard. Nairobi City to on success. Nairobi City.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl Amina. This Friday on The Trend, DJ's battling it out. DJ E and the one and only DJ Joe Mfalo. The beautiful and talented Sanaipe Tande. Kawakawa Osoro reading the tweet.
Mbuyamono, kasi yangu ni kuwa make sure ya kwamba spit.
Evo basi. More coming up on Friday only on NTV.
Sasa, mimi ni Zuri kutoka Safaricom na niko hapa kukuchanua. Kaa macho. Safaricom upiga kutoka 0722 000 pekee. Ukipigiwa na namba nyingine, usipeane maelezo yako ya kibinafsi. Tuma namba ya mkora kwa 333 ili Safaricom ichukue hatua.
Kama kawaida, it's your girl Adasa na niko ndani ya Kwetu Mix on NTV.
Join me, your boy Ted Agua, right here on your favorite channel, Tupate Vibe.
Your source of all great 411 and so much more.
What is a super house, you ask? This week we have a look at the home of the century.
You must ensure that the architectural form, the elevations and sections have a strong aesthetic appeal.
Then a review of a 5-bedroom stunning masterpiece.
So that when their guests come over, they're able to feel welcomed and they're able to feel nice as if they're living in a hotel.
And what kind of furniture does a super client look for?
The quality, the craftsmanship that goes into making a furniture piece to bring it to stand out in your space.
Cut the show this Sunday at 5:30 p.m. only on NTV.
For all your personal and business banking needs, SMS GROW to 0708 000 111. UAP Old Mutual. We've got you covered. Doing great things every day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Auntie
Lina.
Thank you for making us. Thank you for making us your favorite drive show crew.
Nation FM, we love you.
Oh, thank you, people. This is the bankers and stitches. I got you good.
Nyi wanyama mechizi yani.
Tunajibamba na show yenyu. Muendelee hivyo.
I came to rap it up, do my thing,
Thank you for listening to 90.3 Nation FM.
Of course, Antona Obina.
Obina.
Mad love, mad respect. Wow,
I run the city.
Ugandans now have a new president. Kindly note, there's a difference between a new president and a new president. America has a new president. Uganda has a new president. I knew Museveni is going to take this thing. There is a vaccine for cholera.
Yes, there is a vaccine for cholera.
Thank you. Now, for me, when you mention there's a vaccine for cholera, what comes to my mind is the science of how it works. Come on, brake pads.
Come on, brake pad.
sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Despite the setback and challenges, George was determined and founded Agritech Organic Farm Company na bado anakiuka nayo, which means going beyond and breaking barriers.
So kazi yenye tunafanya hapa ni ukulima wa wadudu na worms and insects. Now what we have here is now the ready vermicompost.
Mbona hii soil iko wet?
The reason as to why it's wet because when we are feeding tunazipea mbolea ya ng'ombe yenye ni moist kiasi. At times it might be a challenge ukishake pore pore. Worms zitaenda chini. So it requires you move very fast.
And when it comes to organic farming, tunaweza kiuka aje na ni benefit gani hizi vitu zinatuletea?
Tumekuwa tukitumia chemicals here and there, and this has led into a challenge of food security. But now when we come into organic farming, first we work from the soil up to the plant.
Tuzidi na Hustle in association with Safaricom.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mbiu ya mgambo imelia na hakika kuna ishu nzito.
#1 source of entertainment news, culture, reviews, what's hot and what's not.
Introducing Kwetu Mix.
Trip yako ilikuwa sawa?
Trip? Oh,
Business trip.
Where do you think Becky could have gone?
Huo msichana wako na boss Richard ni nani? Mambo ya Joey, Richard, marafiki zake usijishughulishe, umesikia?
Okay.
Hey.
For all your personal and business banking needs, SMS GROW to 0708 000 111. UAP Old Mutual. We've got you covered. Doing great things every day.
New Year comes with New Year deals. Renew your corporate subscription and get a bonus. Subscribe to Nation ePaper for 3 months and get 1 week absolutely free. 6 months and get 2 weeks absolutely free. 1 year and get 3 weeks absolutely free. To sign up, visit epaper.nationmedia.com or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Offer valid till 28th February 2021.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.